Okay, welcome everyone to the Judiciary Committee hearing this Friday morning. All this is pretty much, we're all pretty used to it at this point. So if we do have a catastrophic Zoom failure, we will roll over till Tuesday, January 30 at 9:31 a.m. in this room here, 016. Otherwise, we just have a 2-minute limit on time, and there's a little countdown clock over here, and a little chime will go off when you get to your 2 minutes. First up today, we have SB 2213. This amends section 11364 to provide that an excess contribution of more than $100 in cash in the aggregate from a single person during an election period has to be returned to the contributor within 30 days or is cheated to the state. First up on 2213 is Gary Kam for the Campaign Spending Commission. Good morning.
Good morning. Chair Rose, Vice Chair Galbraith, and Senator Hawai'i. My name is Gary Kam, and I'm with the Campaign Spending Commission. So the legislature last year passed the bill to cap contributions to $100 per person to any committee. This bill is housekeeping, and it's just to call for the return of any excess cash contribution to the contributor, and failing that after 30 days, then
you just pull the mic closer, right?
Then the sheet of the excess cash contribution. So it's similar to how other contribution limits are treated.
Okay, great, thank you. Next is Michael Galoyo Jr. on Zoom.
They're unavailable on Zoom, Chair.
He's in opposition. That's everybody who signed up for SB 2213. Does anyone else wish to testify on SB 2213? Seeing none, members' questions? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the next bill, which is SB 2215 relating to administrative fines, updates the maximum administrative fines allowable for violations of Chapter 84 and 97. This is a State Ethics Commission package bill. First up is Executive Director Robert Harris for the State Ethics Commission. Morning.
Morning. Aloha. Aloha. Chair, Vice Chair, Senators, thank you for the opportunity to testify. Before I jump into this, if I can just briefly say thank you and aloha for your leadership, particularly last year on ethics bills. As many of you know, 10% of all the bills passed last year were good governance bills. It shows a lot of leadership, particularly from this committee, the Senate, the legislature at large. I really want to say thank you for that. This bill is a continuation of some of those efforts. It is in trying to ensure that the fine that might be assessed for ethical misconduct might be scaled to the appropriateness of the violation. As a part of this, we did a national survey looking at different counties and states. The average, and again, it's sometimes difficult because some jurisdictions blend criminal and civil conduct, so I don't want to mislead, but on average, the highest standard fines were between 5,000 and 10,000, sort of more closer to 10,000. So our commission has asked to increase our maximum administrative fine up to $5,000 per violation. Be able to answer any questions. Thank you again.
Thank you. That's everybody who signed up for SB 2215. Would anyone else like to testify on SB 2215? Seeing none, members' questions? Okay, let's go ahead and move on to SB 2216. This clarifies and modernizes the way the State Ethics Commission provides advice and conducts investigations. First up on 2216 is Robert Harris, Executive Director, State Ethics Commission. Morning again.
Thank you again. The Ethics Commission is in support of SB 2216. This does do a pretty substantive job of looking at the advice mechanism, which we see as a very important function of the Ethics Commission. We want to make sure that all members of government, state employees, and public officials feel comfortable and confident in being able to reach out and address potential ethics situations. On average, we handle about 1,200 inquiries per year. I think the intent here is to make sure that there's a mechanism for keeping those communications confidential, a way to provide written summary advice. And in addition, it adds a new feature which allows us to provide general advisory opinions. If we see the same question coming in, say 6, 7, 10 times, we can post something that has the force and effect of law, basically saying this is the interpretation, and make it available for everyone to see, rather than having to each individually inquire. In addition, this does make some just general housekeeping amendments to the investigation process. These are ones that we already follow, but I think by trying to put it into statute, it makes it clear for anybody else who is reviewing that can see it and understand what the process is. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next is Mills Wong Judith for League of Women Voters in support. That's everyone who signed up for SB 2216. Does anyone else wish to testify in SB 2216? Yep, please come on up. Morning.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee members. My name is Cameron Hurt. I am representing a common cause here today. We are in support. Echoing again what this committee was able to do last year in good governance, we think that this bill, again, it goes with the precedent that this committee already has set, and that it gives teeth to our ethics commission as experts and allows for them to give advisory opinions, which would make certain processes become more efficient and universally streamlined. So just for efficiency of governance and ethics, we are in full support of this bill. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify on SB 2216? Seeing none, members' questions?
Yes, I do.
Senator Buenaventura, go
Yes,
ahead.
ethics, Robert Harris. So since you've been in office, how many fines have you assessed? Up to $1,000, the maximum of 1,000.
So we do publish an annual report, which would have the exact information off of memory. I believe this past year, we've issued a total of $16,000 worth
So
of.
there's about 16 violations.
More. Many of them may wind up with a lesser amount, but yes, many of them also are up to the maximum fine.
So is it your reading of the bill or statute allow you to, if a candidate or person has more than one violation, are you allowed to assess the maximum per violation? That's my understanding.
Yes.
Okay, so one person can repeatedly violate a certain section and you can assess for each one.
Correct.
Okay, why do you think you need to increase the maximum from 5,000? I mean, from 1,000 to 5,000 to 10,000 when you're allowed to assess maximum per violation?
We had a circumstance last year where an employee was advised of a potential violation, and it would have been a one-time violation. For example, if it was revealing confidential information, and the response was, well, so what can you do to me? $1,000 fine. And it was sort of that's all you can do. So what do I care? I think we want to, for certain serious violations, have the capacity to have more teeth. So for example, revealing confidential information in a lawsuit by the state that could damage the state's ability to litigate, which is one of the violations we had last year, is a type of violation where you say there should be a little bit more teeth to this to make sure that the transgression matches the fine.
What about the other 15?
If somebody files their financial disclosure statement late, for example, that's not something that I think would merit a full fine, even up to 1,000, right? That's not the type of, so the idea is to have the ability to.
The flexibility is what you're saying.
Correct, to match the level. So breach of conflicts of interest, which might be quite significant. We had, and these are all public enforcement actions, where somebody awarded hundreds of thousands of dollars of contracts to an entity that they sat on the board of. That's the type of thing where you say, well, that's state money being spent in a way where you may not have made the best decision or the decision in the state's interest. That might be a situation where you say, even though it only happened one time or two times, you may want to be able to do more than a $2,000 fine, for example, for a two-time violation. So the idea is not necessarily say we're going to do maximum fine every single time. Obviously, we don't want to have that situation, but where you have a very serious violation, you might be able to do a higher.
So like in criminal cases, we allow for like persistent offender to have increased violation. Shouldn't it be better to have a section that allows you that kind of flexibility for persistent types of offenders, like what you have mention. Because what I'm concerned with is, Mr. Harris, you are a reasonable person, but since I've been in office, we've had at least 2 or 3 other ethics officers, and one of whom was extremely by the letter, to the point where teachers who are accompanying minors on trips was being considered to have been violating the ethics standard. So I'm concerned that, and yeah, like a trip would be thousands of dollars. So that would fall under your $10,000 possibility, and teachers barely make much money. Okay, I mean, we don't want to change, I mean, and what happened in that case was there were bills to try to protect the teachers, but we did not want to have a blanket rule, since we cannot pass special laws for everybody. So that's my concern, is that we have a super by the book, dot the i's, cross the t's, and maximum or minor violations, especially when you already have the ability. And from what you testified to, 15 out of the 16 since you've been in office haven't reached this egregious standard.
So again, I understand the concern about the degree of authority, and just to be clear, I'm not the one who assesses fines. It is the commission, which is 5 volunteers, right? And they're the ones who ultimately will make decisions, whether it's a settlement or an enforcement action. And of the 16, I'm not saying that they weren't egregious. They're, again, it's all on our annual report, and happy to share that with you. One of the commitments I can make that I've already talked to staff, if we do see an increase, that we might want to publish a settlement guide with the idea of certain types of violations. There's a standard, so there's an objectiveness to any proposed settlements. When you go up to $5,000, we don't want to see every single situation treated like you're going to get a maximum fine, and I'm entirely comfortable with having something public and published of how we view different types of violations. I understand the concern, and I share it. I would say ultimately the teeth that the Ethics Commission has is usually more of the public nature of an ethics violation, not necessarily the fine. But again, also having somebody respond back and say, so what, you're going to do a $1,000 fine, I don't care, is also not necessarily the type of result we want to have. So again, the idea.
But we also don't want to bankrupt like teachers and the
plainly.
Right?
Again, that's why we're proposing 5,000, not 10,000. We were doing the modest. We'd still be the lowest or one of the lowest jurisdictions in the entire country. Just to be clear, like this is intended to be a moderate increase, not up to the $10,000 that most other jurisdictions seem to be at.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Members, other questions? I do have a couple for you,
Sure.
Executive Director. So the public general advisory opinions in the bill, I think you said in your initial testimony that would be, would have the effect, I don't exactly remember how you phrased it, how do you intend to use those? I mean, it's not a law, it's not a rule or a reg, but how would that work?
Sure. So we currently issue advisory opinions. I think we've issued historically well over 200 to 300 of them, and they are the intent is it puts out that specific fact situation that others can look at and say, okay, if I fit within that fact situation, I am able to rely upon that decision. It's an interpretation similar to court, in the quasi-judicial sense.
Okay.
It is a binding decision on us.
Okay.
And it applies prospectively. So there have been circumstances where the Ethics Commission has come out with a new opinion and reversed past ones. But again, the idea is anybody who relied upon that is able to say, hey, I relied on that advisory opinion, and be able to escape enforcement.
Great. So then how is this, the public general advisory, is it different than, how is that different than what you can put out now?
Sure. Right now, we have to have someone request the advisory
so
opinion.
This looks like it's a problem. We're just going to tell everybody
Correct.
This is what you need to do.
And the idea is it has a little bit more oomph than guidance, because guidance doesn't have any precedentiary. So if you rely on guidance, it's nothing saying that the Ethics Commission couldn't later say, well, we changed our mind, we're not going to do it, right? So the advisory opinion gives a little bit more comfort to people.
Understood. Then with regard to the individual advice given under the bill that you say would be kept confidential, how is that different than what happens now? If I called, which I do occasionally, call the Ethics Commission and say, hey, I've been asked to do X, and you give me an informal opinion, how is that different than what would be here?
In our administrative rules, it does indicate that those conversations are confidential, but it doesn't say it statutorily.
Okay, so this is just, okay, all
this
right.
is to attempt to make it more clear. And again, we want to be able to provide written advice. So what this does, it says if you request a written summary of the advice given, we will give that to you. You can do with it as you wish. The idea is the conversations that happened are confidential, and it's your choice whether you want that
Whether you
written
want to
summary.
release it or not yourself. Okay, all right, thank you. Other questions, members?
No.
If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next bill, which is SB 2217. This adjusts the reporting period for gift disclosures filed with the State Ethics Commission to conform with the fiscal year. First up is Robert Harris, Executive Director of State Ethics Commission. Hello again.
Thank you. Aloha. I'll be very brief. We're in support of this bill. It basically realigns the reporting period to track the fiscal year. My staff have told me this is important, and so we are supporting it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're the only one who's signed up for SB 2217. Does anyone else wish to testify on SB 2217? Seeing none, members, questions? I do have one question about there's like a transition period. So there's 1 year where you basically, right now we have to report in June for the period ending May 31st. I think that's correct?
This is for non-legislators.
Non-legislature, okay.
So this is basically all other state
We have to
employees.
report in January.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So for everybody else, they report up to, well, I think that's a fairly recent change because I remember reporting in June before, but right now everybody else is on sort of this weird year of June 1st to May 31st. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So then the first phase in is that there's one long year where you report everything from June 1st to June 30th.
A 13-month period. Correct.
And then the next year you just go to the regular fiscal year.
Correct. That's the intent.
All right. Just want to be sure I had that straight. Thank you. Other questions, members? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to the next bill. This is SB, excuse me, 2219. This amends the definition of lobbying to include certain communications regarding procurement decisions, staffing, or appointment decisions, the development of an administrative agency's written report or statement of policy, and ex parte communications regarding contested case hearings. It includes among lobbyists certain persons who submit testimony 10 or more times in any calendar year. If they're paid, and establishes certain presumptions regarding testimony when given by a paid person. Makes certain contracts voidable when entered into in violation of lobbying law. First up on 2219 is Robert Harris, State Ethics Commission. Hello again.
Thank you. Aloha. We are in support with, I think, relatively significant proposed amendments. Briefly as context, the lobbying laws have not, specifically in this regard, have not been substantively updated since 1970 when they were first passed. At the time, they predominantly focused on legislative matters, and the executive branch was supposed to only do decision-making, essentially, or exercise its authority through either rulemaking or contested case hearings. Contested case hearings, usually are public processes. It's a quasi-judicial process. Admin rules, which were regulated by lobbying, was intended to be the substantive way the executive branch exercised its authority. As we all know, in the intervening decades, the executive branch does exercise authority in many different ways that may not be within those two boxes. What we are proposing, and this is in response to 2 Senate bills that were heard last year, we came in and asked that you hold on those bills, in part because we're really worried about unintended consequences. Lots of people have interactions with the executive branch. We don't necessarily want to capture everything as lobbying. And so we looked at other jurisdictions and are trying to sort of look at what the sensitive areas are. Under the proposed amendments, we're proposing limiting the definition of lobbying to interactions with high-level executive officers, and we have defined it in the draft amendments as essentially public filers, which is intended to be sort of at the governor, director, deputy director, and then the administrative boards overseeing some of the larger agencies. And we are limiting it to procurement decisions as a iterative approach. And so how this works in other jurisdictions, it's essentially pre-procurement. So if somebody's contacting the governor saying you really need to issue a contract for this reason to buy my product, to expend it on these issues, That would be something pre-procurement that would have to then potentially, if they trigger the 5 hours, register as a lobbying activity. The intent is transparency. The intent is to make it visible that this is something that's going on. And for example, if there's a competitor or another business.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Next up is Lisa Murayama, President and CEO for Hawaii Alliance of Nonprofit Organizations. In opposition, Ted Kafalis for Grassroots Institute of Hawaii with comments. Mills Wong Judith testifying for League of Women Voters in support. And that's all the written testimony I have on SB 2219. Would anyone else like to testify on SB 2219? Seeing none, members, questions? I got a couple, I guess. So the amendments that you're proposing limit the scope of what was initially introduced.
Correct.
Can you just, I'm sorry, can you just repeat yourself and go back briefly over the what you're limiting it to now? What you're suggesting we limit it to now?
Specifically to procurement interactions with high-level executive officers or someone who's paid on behalf of someone else, 5 or more hours of interaction. And so this would remove the other proposals, which was quasi-judicial discussions about appointments. We're removing that for now. Not to say that we don't think that that conversation may need to happen, but the idea is we're going to try to do these changes iteratively, have an opportunity to work with agencies and make sure we're trying to minimize unintended consequences as much as possible.
All right, understood. Thank you. Questions, other questions, members? Okay, thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members, I'm ready to vote if you guys are. Okay, we'll go back to the top of the agenda, which is SB 2213. This amends section 1136 to provide that an excess contribution of more than $100 in cash in the aggregate from a single person during an election period shall escheat to the Hawaii Election Campaign Fund if not returned to the contributor within 30 days. Recommendation here is to pass as is. Questions or concerns?
Concern. I'll
Yes,
be
sir.
voting no on this
Senator
one.
Watt.
I'll be voting no on this one just because of I don't agree with it going to the campaign or the election campaign fund.
Oh, okay, understood. All right.
Yeah, my concern is this is an anti-grassroots bill. I mean, it prevents people from soliciting monies like calabash, which usually are newcomers. This is a pro-incumbent bill.
Yeah, so I was going to point that out. So I do have supporters like that, and what they have done for me in the past is to go to the post office and get a, I forget what you call them. It's a check.
Money order. Yeah,
Money
but
order.
if you live like in Puna where the post office lines are 2 hours long because we don't have mailboxes, they're
Yeah.
basically telling them that they can't contribute.
I hear what you're saying, but I think the cash part of it is just so squishy. So that's why I'm recommending that we go ahead. Go ahead, let's vote. We'll see. You may defeat me. That's fine. Go ahead.
Chair's recommendations to pass SB 2213 as is. Chair Rhodes?
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Elefante?
Aye.
Senator San Buenaventura?
No,
And Senator Owa?
No.
The measure passes 3-2.
Okay, thank you. Next up is SB 2215. This updates the maximum administrative fines allowed for violations of Chapter 84 and 97. Recommendation here is also to pass as is. Questions or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Chair's recommendations to pass SB 2215 unamended. Of the members present, are there any no votes or reservations?
no,
One no vote from Senator San Buenaventura. The measure passes.
Thank you. Next up is SB 2216. This clarifies and modernizes the way the State Ethics Commission provides advice and conducts investigations. The recommendation here is to pass with technical amendments only. Questions or concerns? If not, Vice Chair.
Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2216 with amendments. Of the members present, any no votes or reservations? Hearing none, the measure passes.
Thank you. Next up is SB 2217. This adjusts the reporting period for gift disclosures to make them line up with the state fiscal year. The recommendation here is to pass as is. Questions or concerns?
Concern.
Yes, Senator Awab.
Appreciate the intent of this. I'm against gifts altogether. I wish it were just a no gift bill. So I'll be voting no to it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Was this Nancy's?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Chair's recommendation is to pass SB 2217 as is. Members present, any no votes? Senator Roy says no. Reservations? Hearing none, the measure passes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the last bill on the agenda, SB 2219. On this one, the amendments proposed by the Ethics Commission are significant enough, I think, that I'm going to just defer this for now. We'll draft up a new proposed SD1 with the amendments, and then I'll repost. It's a JDC single, so we have relatively a lot of time. So that one I'm going to defer for now. That's it. Thanks everyone for being here, and we'll have another hearing on Tuesday morning. Mahalo.
Thank you.